But the Fever have continued to rally. So it's shocking from the standpoint of they had 5 season-ending injuries, including Caitlin Clark. And now the very thing that Caitlin Clark actually told me when I interviewed her earlier this year about what would scare her the most if she was on a different team is the Fever's depth. It's coming into play now.
All right, Meg, we are down to the final four, no pun intended on the women's basketball front there, but in the WNBA playoffs. And right now, honestly, I feel like we had a huge shakeup in the first round of the playoffs. We are now one game into the second round of the playoffs, and I would love to know, what do you think is the most surprising thing that has come out of the first round going into the second round?
Yeah, it's gotta be actually, it's probably honestly both the Liberty and the Dream being out after the first round. I would say the Dream is probably the more surprising one because, you kind of figured, like, given the season they had, they probably would be at least make it to the semifinals. This is a team that was a top 3 seed. They had one of the top defenses in the league, multiple all-stars, like, they had doubled their wins from the previous season. Like, they had a lot going for them. And on the Liberty side, like, yes, the Liberty have been banged up all year, with injuries out of the world. But you figured, all right, hey, this Liberty team just won a championship last year. They should be able to get themselves at least back to the semifinals at minimum, right? If not the finals. But neither one of those teams are playing in the semifinal rounds now. And so now, as someone who sat at that Fever Dream game in like total, like, I don't like, disbelief is probably not the word I would say. I don't know what to describe it, but it is more so like, what is happening here? Like, that was the wildest 2 minutes I think I've seen in any sports I've ever watched, let alone like covered. And Aaliyah Boston hit that huge bucket. Shout out to Odyssey Sims for finding her. And there it went. And then Lexi Hole got the steal, like, moments later, like, it was gone. It was gone. And on the Liberty side, I mean, they just essentially got out muscled by Phoenix in every which way possible, and they just didn't have enough. And so for me, yeah, that's the most shocking stuff. Honestly, it's like this first round completely busted my bracket. I will let you know right now, in full transparency, my bracket is already busted after the first round.
Yes, if you people at home have been following along with what Megan and I have been talking about, I said the Dream were going to the finals. And when that happened, I was just like, "Man, wow, okay. Guess that's over." And honestly, I think the most shocking thing for me is the fact that the Fever did what they did. And I would love to ask you, is that fair? Is it fair for me to be shocked with the Fever, with their team and their injuries, but the depth on their team is obviously working? Do you think it's fair that me, and I'm sure other people, are shocked by the fact that the Fever have made it to the second round?
Um, I would say yes and no. So I'll say this. Before the season, there was championship expectations for this team, right? Like, everyone was all bought in on, hey, we want to win a championship. And I thought, I was like, okay, they didn't win a playoff series last year, but they could potentially upset someone in the first round. But when all those injuries started happening, I was like, oof, this is probably a really, like, uphill steep climb, right? But the Fever have continued to rally. So it's shocking from the standpoint of they had 5 season-ending injuries, including Caitlin Clark. And now the very thing that Caitlin Clark actually told me when I interviewed her earlier this year about what would scare her the most if she was on a different team is the Fever's depth. It's coming into play now. That system with Stephanie White and that coaching staff perfectly highlights, if you're a shooter, you have that freedom to do so. I think the other thing that people should not be sleeping on is that, like, the players they have picked up in relief of other players are really good. So, like, Ari McDonald was really good in relief for Caitlin Clark and for Sid Colson, of course, right? And then Ari got hurt. Well, then you pick up Odyssey Sims. Odyssey Sims was a starter before. So, like, it's not like this is someone who, like, is new to the WNBA or hasn't been here before. She can hoop. So, like, it's not totally shocking in the from the standpoint of the Fever are always capable. It's just about whether or not they could actually put it together to make a run. So now I would say, like, what more can they do? They've already won 3 straight games now in the playoffs, which is super impressive. So shout out to Stephanie White and this coaching clinic that she's putting on. But now, could they potentially upset the Las Vegas Aces for a trip to the finals? That is the big question now. How long can they keep it going?
Absolutely. And I think that it's I think it's hilarious with the fact that Caitlin Clark has been wearing these black Air Force Ones, and they are 3-0 in them. I mean, and you know that they're gonna be taking those things and putting them in a shadow box, framing them, like, if they end up making it to the finals. But I need to know with the fact that we've talked about these injuries, we talked about Caitlin Clark, and is it possible like, what kind of narratives are we going to get out of this if the Fever do upset the Aces and they go to the finals? Let's say they win the finals. Like, what is the narrative going to be for Caitlin Clark after this, like, getting back next season? Like, I feel like it's going to be just such a wild ride.
So I'll address 2 things. So I'll go back to the Air Forces. If you remember last season, the New York Liberty had their Tims. They had their butter-colored Tims that they
Yes.
left on the Aces home court. So it seems like shoes have made a reappearance here in in the playoffs to say, "Listen, we're bringing this kind of energy here. Like we're standing on business here. Like we are here to, to make some noise." So that's kind of what I took out of the Black Air Forces. But I would say in terms of if this Fever team is able to pull off this kind of feat without its best player, essentially, I, first of all, Stephanie White deserves all her flowers. That's the first thing. Kelsey Mitchell deserves all her flowers. Aaliyah Boston deserves her flowers. Natasha Howard, like go down that roster. All those people deserve their flowers. And I would say that this is what I've been talking about for a while. And this is no disrespect to anyone who thinks that Caitlin Clark elevates that team because they certainly do. But they are actually really sneaky good. The issue was the injuries. You got to get past all of that, right? The injuries throw off your synergy, they throw off your ability to do certain things. Caitlin obviously opens up their offense, right? Like she is one of the most prolific passers in the game and also a prolific scorer. So she takes the top off of that offense and she also helps on defense. But for them to be able to rally without her is that's formidable, right? Like that's impressive in terms of you have someone who is essentially the main engine for your offense and your team and you're still going. And so I think in that sort of respect it probably changes the conversations on do you need a super team to win a championship, right? Like that's
Mm.
something that we've been talking about for the last several seasons in terms of New York Liberty just won a championship. They're considered by and large a super team, right? Then you had the Las Vegas Aces who won in 22 and 23, super team. So if the Fever are able to haul off and win this, yeah, it's going to bring the conversation back up. Do you need a super team to win the finals? Which the answer probably then will probably be no. And then it's also going to say, what does okay, if this is what they did without Caitlin, what can they do with her? Will it be multiple championships? Will it be a dynasty, if you will? Like that's where I'm looking forward to, like the future. So you haul off and win a championship this year. Okay, can you go back to back? Can you make it a three-peat? Like that's the questions are going to start. The unfortunately for the Fever, like if you haul off and do this season, the expectations don't just stop there.
But I do wanna talk about the Aces a little bit here because not only are they the Aces, but Asia Wilson just won MVP of the league, which was first of all, that video was so cute with Bam giving her the trophy. It was really, really heartwarming. But you have Asia Wilson, MVP of the league. But do you feel like the Aces might be putting a little bit too much pressure on Asia and aren't utilizing maybe players like Chelsea Gray, like Jackie Young to, like, basically get to their highest potential.
Yeah, so I'll address the MVP part first because that is historic. That's never been done in the league's history. A four-time MVP, which is why I put the fours up. Like it is just impressive. Four MVPs before you turn 30 years old is just absolutely bananas, Asia Wilson. I'm just gonna say that like quite clearly. It is bananas. But I would say this. I think Becky Hammon kind of hinted at this, right? Like she recently said, Hey, God forbid that Asia doesn't score 40 for us, then we're not really sure what to do. And I think that is an issue. It's an issue they ran into last season as well, why the Aces had an early exit in the semifinals, is because Asia Wilson could not be everything for them. She had a prolific season, 1,000 points in a season, and when they got to the semifinals, they did not have the depth and the offensive production to keep up with everything the Liberty threw at them. And so it makes me feel like, is this another situation now where like, okay, if Asia's not starting fast and quick, like when the Fever, when they played the Fever, Aaliyah Boston did a really good job on her because Asia missed her first 11 shots. Like, that's very unlike Asia Wilson. And so, again, if Asia's not going, where do the shots come from? Do they come from a Jackie Young? Do they come from Chelsea Gray? Are they going to come from an Alyssa Smith? Are they going to come from the bench in Dana Evans, Joel Lloyd? Like, all those players have to step up in order for the Aces to get back to the finals. And so, I don't think it's time to panic or anything else like that. Like, this series is just starting. It's a 5-game series for a reason, but it does beg the question, like, who else is going to step up? Who's going to be the X factor for the Aces to help get them over the hump? So I'll be very curious to see, will that be, as I predicted a little while ago, Joel Lloyd, if she will hit that next gear to be able to help that bench unit help push the starters into the places where they're supposed to be, and see if we get this series to be a really good one.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. So that's Fever Aces, right? We haven't even touched the
So
other
much
game.
good basketball.
So much good basketball. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about this Mercury Lynx series that we got going here. And the Lynx have taken this first game, but can you see the Mercury making a case to win this series? Or do you think that the Minnesota is just going to be able to just slide their way back into the finals again this year?
Well, since the rest of my bracket is completely busted, I have to stick to the
Who cares at
side,
this
right?
point? Just go for it.
No, but honestly, I still believe in the Lynx. I still believe in the
Yeah.
Lynx to get to the WNBA finals. I do think that the Mercury obviously could win a game. I mean, if they upset the Lynx, all right, then this is invalid too, you know. But here's where I panic about the Mercury, and it's something that I panicked about them in the first round is their defense. Their
Mm.
defense had been inconsistent down the back stretch of the season, and it showed up in that first game against Minnesota. They were up big, and then all of a sudden, Minnesota starts hitting these big, quick buckets, a big three, several quick buckets in the paint. They had turnovers, like that sort of stuff you can't have against Minnesota. They were a team that they see any sliver of daylight, they're going to take it, right? Things come and go as Alyssa Thomas comes and goes. And that was very evident for the Mercury in that game. Alyssa Thomas had 16 points in the first half. And she said, hey, Fee's got to guard me too. Like, I'm going off. Like, everybody's got to guard me, right? But then she only had 2 points in the second half, which says Minnesota adjusted as a team. It wasn't just Fee, it was the entire team that adjusted, shutting down the Mercury and effectively Alyssa Thomas. So if you can't get Alyssa Thomas going for that entire game, as they did against the Liberty, you're in for either a really, really quick series or it's going to be an uphill climb and we might get a 5-game series. If it's not coming from AT, where else is it coming from in the big three and of course on their bench as well?
Yeah, to add on to that just a little bit, I feel like during the regular season, the Lynx did meet a Mercury team that was dealing with injuries to a lot of their notable players, including AT. And I feel like they didn't get that full Mercury experience. However, like you said, you have the Lynx who have been here before and are confident and are feeling really good about themselves. So I just don't know. I agree with you there that I just don't know if the Mercury will be able to get pushed past that. But this series is going to be incredibly interesting. And I'm a little bit in my football era right now because we're in the middle of the season. I was kind of feeling like the Lynx are giving a little bit of the Chiefs to me and Patrick Mahomes because like you see the Chiefs come into that first quarter, second quarter, they're not looking too hot. They went into that second half, the Mercury were up in
Yeah.
that first game, but then the Lynx come back in and who knows what's going on in that halftime, and they come in and they just start pounding and then suddenly they're winning the game. So it's kind of like you cannot count the Lynx out until they're officially out of the game. So that's what I'm thinking, but I think this series is going to be so interesting. I have one more question for you, Meg, regarding the Lynx.
Okay.
Most important, do you think they're ever going to get annoyed with doing the electric slide?
No, no, never, never, absolutely not. First of all, it's a staple, it's a classic dance. Secondly, they do it after they win. So, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. If you saw that, like this, shout out to Dejanay Carrington, who's unfortunately not playing because of an injury. But if they got Dejanay in there, who's like, no, I don't dance, like that's not my thing. Like y'all go ahead. But even Dejanay did it at one time. Listen, it's a family affair at this point. They're never gonna get tired of it. And I'm almost positive if they win the WNBA finals, there will be an electric slide up and down probably the entire court. Like, nah, No, honestly, they might pull Cheryl Reeve into it as well. Like, come on, everybody, everybody celebrate.
I love it.